بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. Last lesson بحمد we completed الدرس الخامس والعشرون, the 25th lesson. Now we enter into الدرس السادس والعشرون, which is the 26th lesson. The author, he begins now to focus more on the sarf rules, the sarf side of things, morphology, from lesson 26 all the way to lesson 29. So in these 4 lessons that are going to come, we are going to focus more on sarf rules, the rules of morphology. The difference between sarf and nahu is grammar. So nahu focuses on the haraka of the last letter of words. So do we say al-maktabatu or maktabati or maktabata, kabirati, kabiratu, amama, amami, amamu? That's nahu. Nahu focuses on the harakat of the last letter. Is it one where there's change? Is it fixed? Is it mu'rab? If it's mu'rab, what case does it end in? And so on. Whereas sarf, morphology, is the build of words, how to construct words. Nuridu, it concentrates on the noon. Does it take a dhamma? The ra taking a kasra, the ya, and everything aside from the last haraka of the last letter, because that's studied in nahu. Everything else, every other part of the word, this is where we learn in sarf. So when we said the harful mudara'a takes a dhamma in the ruba'i and it takes a fatha in every other case, this is something that is taught in sarf. So that's what we mean by we're going to concentrate more on sarf in these 4 coming lessons, inshallah. Rather than read the passage from lesson 26, I thought it would be a better idea for us to mention an important categorization of the verbs that's going to give us an overview of what's to come. You can anticipate the different things that's going to be taught over the course of these 4 lessons. And it's important for us to know these groups or these categorizations of the words, because each group, when you are conjugating the words, they change differently. Each group is affected in a different way. So if you understand the definitions and the categorizations of these groups that we're going to mention in this lesson, it's going to help you understand the upcoming lessons, inshallah. So that's what we're going to do, inshallah. If we don't have time to read, then please don't mind. So this is a categorization of al-fi'l, the verb. We're going to categorize the verb into 2 categories. And this categorization is in terms of the usul, the root letters of the verb. Remember we said that we have fa, ayn, lam represent the root letters. They chose 3 letters because most words in the Arabic language, they return back to 3 root letters. So they said we're going to use fa to stand in the place of the first root letter, ayn in the place of the second root letter, lam in the place of the third root letter. And they called fa'ul kalima, aynul kalima, lamul kalima. So this categorization is in terms of the root letters being free from huruf al-illa or not. Is it free from huruf al-illa or not? That's what this categorization is concerning. What are the huruf al-illa? We mentioned previously alif, waw, ya. Alif, waw, and ya, the huruf al-illa. Is fa alif waw or ya? Is ayn alif waw or ya? Is lam alif waw or ya? Or not? In terms of that, the fi'l is categorized into 2. If there are no huruf al-illa within the root letters, then the fi'l is called as-sahih. It's called as-sahih. So as-sahih here has a different meaning to as-sahih in hadith. In hadith, sahih means something else. In sarf, as-sahih means something else. What does it mean in sarf? In sarf, sahih is a verb whose root letters are free from alif, waw, and ya. Root letters are free from alif, waw, and ya. So let's write that down. Root letters are free from alif, waw, ya. And the thing to concentrate on is the root letters. Let's highlight this. So what is as-sahih once again? It is the verb whose root letters are free from alif, waw, or ya. So that's one category. What do you think the other category is going to be? If this is where the root letters are free from alif, waw and ya, the other category is going to be where one of the root letters is alif, waw or ya. And this category is known as al-mu'tal. Al-mu'tallu and as-sahihu. Al-mu'tallu is one of the root letters, at least. It could be one or more. One of the root letters, at least one, is alif, waw or ya. The fi'l, in terms of its root letters being made up of huruf al-illa or not, they are divided into two types. We have sahih and we have mu'tal. So the huruf al-illa are three. Alif, waw and ya, they called huruf al-illa. What do you think the rest of the letters are called? All of the letters aside from alif, waw and ya, they are known as sahih. These are called huruf illa. Hence mu'tal, illa, they sound the same. Sahih and as-sahih, yeah, they sound the same. طيب, so two categories. And the focus is on root letters. The root letters being free or consisting of huruf illa. That's the main focus of these two definitions. So let's give examples of sahih verbs. We mention, we'll vary the examples. Jalasa means to sit. It's sahih because the fa, ayn, lam are free from alif, waw and ya. Another example, akala is free from huruf illa. Don't be confused when you see this. This is a hamza. It's not an alif. Alif and hamza are two separate letters. Huruf illa is a alif. This is a hamza. We know that because it has this on top. طيب, and there's two types of hamzas. There's this hamza al-qata' and there's another one which is called hamzatul wasl, and that one has this on top. Like in ism, ibn. This is also a type of hamza. It's a sister of hamzatul qata'. It's not alif. طيب, so that's the second example. Akala means to eat. And then we have marra. Marra means to go by, to pass. Then we have safara. Then we have i'taqada. And then we have istajara. So we've given a few examples. This is thulathi, this is thulathi, this is thulathi. The shadda represents two letters, so three letters in total. So thulathi, all of these consist of three root letters. This one's ruba'i, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's khumasi. I'taqada is 5 letters, khumasi. And this is the hamzatul wasl I was talking about. So this is not a harf illa. This is hamzatul wasl. Hamzatul wasl and hamzatul qata' are different to the alif, which is part of the huruf al-illa. And this one consists of 6 letters. Istajara. Istajara is a 6-lettered verb, and that's the peak. In terms of number of letters within verbs, 6 is the maximum. Istajara means to rent. I'taqada means to believe. Safara to travel. Marra to go by. And the rest we know, inshallah. Okay. Some of you might be confused with this one here, because it has an alif. We said it's free from alif, waw and ya, yet we have an alif here. Why is that? Shouldn't this be on this side? Because it consists of alif, waw and ya. So this is why we said you have to concentrate on the definition, and the main thing is root letters. Root letters. Is alif standing in the place of a root letter? If it was standing in the place of a root letter, then yes, you could say it should be on this side. But if it's not standing in the place of a root letter, then it should be on this side. If we was to measure this out according to the scale, fa'ul kalima is the sin. Aynul kalima is the ayn here. The fa is the ayn. And then ra is the lam. So this is additional. This is an additional letter. This is not standing in the place of a root letter. So the root letters are free from alif and ya. Yes, it applies here. Because sin, fa'ul kalima, fa, aynul kalima, ra, lamul kalima, the root letters are free from alif and ya. So this additional letter, which is from the huruf al-illa, is not standing in the place of the root letters. So if you have additional letters which are from the huruf al-illa, they're not standing in the place of the root letters, then it's still considered to be sahih. So the definition of sahih is not the verb that's free from alif waw and ya in totality. That's not the definition. The definition is the verb whose root letters are free from alif waw and ya. And mu'tal now, examples, we have wajada, to find. The waw is from the huruf al-illa, that's the fa'ul kalima. So the root letter, one of the root letters, which is the fa'ul kalima, is a harf illa. Qala, the aynul kalima is a harf illa. Masha means to walk. The lamul kalima here is a harf illa, it's alif. Sometimes we have the alif written like this, and sometimes we see it like this. Da'a. Da'a is also a mu'tal verb because the lamul kalima is a harf illa alif. So two types of alifs. When it comes in the end, we might see this type of alif, this type of alif. And it's possible to have more than one huruf illa. Like qawiya, for example. Qawiya, to be strong. So the aynul kalima is a harf illa and the ya'ul kalima is a harf illa. And then we can have waqa. Waqa means to protect something. We have the fa'ul kalima is a harf illa and the lamul kalima is a harf illa. طيب. So if any one of the root letters is alif waw ya, this is mu'tal. Any one or more of the root letters being a harf from the huruf al-illa makes it a mu'tal verb. So it will come into this side of the table, this side of the categorization. Is this understood? So far, inshallah, it should be clear. Then if it's clear, we move on. The next part is sahih is subdivided, and likewise mu'tal is subdivided. This is where we're trying to get to, because these subdivisions are what's going to be covered in the coming lessons, particularly the subdivisions of the mu'tal. So sahih is subdivided into 3 subdivisions, 3 in total. The first one is called as-salim. So alongside the root letters being free from huruf al-illa, they are also salim. What does salim mean? As-salim is they are free from hamza, the huruf, the root letters. Once again, everything that we're mentioning is the root letters. So the root letters are free from hamza. That's one. And the root letters are free from duplication, doubling. They're free from 2 things, on top of them being free from huruf al-illa. So you won't see a hamza coming as fa'ul kalima or aynul kalima or lamul kalima. So akala is not salim. Why? Because it has a hamza there. Istajara is not salim. Why? Because istaf'ala, aynul kalima, has a hamza. So it has to be free from hamza. What's free from hamza? The root letter, yeah? Root is free from hamza. And doubling. What's doubling? Free from root is free from double letter. What's a double letter? Basically, a letter coming twice. The fa and the ayn are the exact same letter, or the ayn and the lam is the exact same letter. Doubling of a letter. So a repeated letter. Free from a double letter or repeated letter, whatever is easier for you. Repeated letter. So this cancels out words like marra, because the shadda represents 2 letters, double letter. Ma, ra, ra, marara. This is not salim. Why? Because it has a double letter. One of the root letters is doubled. It comes twice. And this part takes out akala and istajara because we have a hamza. So alongside the word being free, the verb being free from huruf al-illa, it should also be free from hamza and free from a repeated letter, one of the root letters being repeated. Then we say this is salim. This is salim. Examples: jalasa. Also, we can say safara. Safara is an example of salim. So it doesn't have to be thulathi, it can be rubai, khumas, sudasi. So long as it's free from hamza, free from repeated letter, and free from huruf al-illa, then we say salim. Safara. I'taqada also is an example. I'taqada. طيب, these are examples of salim. Once again, salim is a subdivision of sahih. So this the definition, free, the root letters being free from alif wa ya, remains intact as we're mentioning these subdivisions. So alongside it being free from huruf al-illa, it's also free from hamza and free from one of the root letters being repeated. طيب, we said there's 3 in total, so that's the first one. The second one is it has a hamza. One of the root letters consists of a hamza. What is that called? It's called al-Mahmuz. Al-Mahmuz is one of the root letters is hamza. Is a hamza. That's Mahmuz. So it has to be free from huruf al-illa. Free from huruf al-illa, but for it to fall into this category, it has to be one where there is a hamza. In one of the root letters is a hamza. So examples of this, one of the root letters being a hamza, akala. So this where they call it mahmuz al-fa. Yani the fa al-kalima is where the hamza is found. And then we can have another example, ayn al-kalima, sa'ala. Sa'ala, now the ayn al-kalima is a hamza. And then we can have qara'a. The lam al-kalima is hamza. And you can also have, this would be an example as well. Even though it's sudasi, the ayn al-kalima ista'jara. We could also have that. Ista'jara. So it doesn't matter if it's thulathi, rubai, khumas, sudasi. So long as one of the root letters is a hamza, then it falls under the category of mahmuz. So that's the second one. The third one is it has to be free from this. If it's free from both, it falls into salim. If it's free from this, or if it has this, it hasn't met this condition, it comes here. If it hasn't met this condition, that's the third one. So it's called al-muda'af. Al-muda'afu. What's al-muda'af? Muda'af means one of the root letters is repeated. It comes twice. And this is subdivided into 2. There's 2 types. There's al-muda'af al-thulathi. And there's al-muda'af al-ruba'i. Al-muda'af al-thulathi, al-muda'af al-ruba'i. Muda'af al-thulathi is where the ayn and the lam are the same letter. The repetition occurs in the ayn and the lam. This is called muda'af al-thulathi. Example of that would be marra. Marra is an example of that. Because marra, obviously there's a change that happens. It was originally marara. It was originally marara. Or another example, massa. Massa means to touch something. Farra. طيب. And it doesn't have to be only thulathi. You could also have sudasi like istamadda. This is also considered to be muda'af thulathi. So don't be confused by the name thulathi. Thulathi is just a technical name where the aynul kalima and the lamul kalima is repeated. This is given the name thulathi to differentiate it from this one. That's all thulathi means. Thulathi doesn't mean that it's restricted to 3-lettered verbs. So long as the ayn and the lam, whether it's thulathi, rubai, khumasi, sudasi, is repeated, then it's going to be muda'af thulathi. Repetition, if it occurs in the ayn and the lam. So istamadda is on istaf'ala. Ala. Ala, that's dal, and la is dal again. So long as the ayn and the lam are repeated, we call this muda'af thulathi. And then we have muda'af al-ruba'i. What's muda'af al-ruba'i? Muda'af al-ruba'i is something that focuses on this scale. Fa'lala. Fa'lala. This is ruba'i. It's a ruba'i verb. It's one of the scales. We haven't taken it, but we're going to explain what muda'af ruba'i is. Muda'af ruba'i is where this fa and the first lam same letter, and ayn and the second lam same letter. So there's two repetitions, two double letters. Fa and the first lam same letter, ayn and the second lam same letter. Like what? Like was, wasa. Waswasa means to whisper. Waswasa means to whisper. Another example, zal, zala. Another example, qalqala. Qalqala. Zalzala means like an earthquake. Qalqala, to be unsettled. So here we have the fa and the first lam same, and the ayn and the second lam same, and likewise with the rest. So that's why this was called thulathi. Thulathi to differentiate from this, but it's not something which is confined to three-lettered verbs. It consists of thulathi, rubai, khumas, sudasi, so long as the repetition occurs on the ayn and the lam. If muda'af rubai consists of huruf illa, then it still falls into this category, even if it has a harf illa. That's an exception to that rule. So the definition here, or the root letters are free from alif, waw and ya. That's true for the most part, except if it's muda'af al-ruba'i. If muda'af al-ruba'i has a harf illa in its roots, then it is an exception. It still remains on this side. So the definition here, the definition is not the main focus. The main focus of this categorization is not merely the definition, but the way these words are going to be affected. Because the muda'af al-ruba'i, there's no irregularities. It's a regular verb. It doesn't change. It's not affected like the mu'tal verbs are affected, where there's omissions, there's changes, and so on. Here, it's uniform. It doesn't change. So this categorization is not merely is there harf illa or not. طيب. Okay. So lesson 26 to lesson 29, there are 4 lessons that are going to come. They're not going to focus too much on this side. They're not going to focus too much on this side, except that we're going to speak about this one. This one is going to come in a separate lesson. I believe it's lesson 29. Now, in lesson 29, we're going to speak about this type. But the rest of them, we're not going to discuss them. Why? Because for the most part, there's no irregularities. They're uniform. They're standard. Nothing special. So with Salim, there's no changes. With Mahmuz, the only thing that we need to pay attention to with Mahmuz is there's 5 verbs. There's 5 verbs where they are irregular. These 5 verbs, we've taken some of them. Like akala and akhadha. What did we say about akala and akhadha? We said the hamza is omitted when you go to the amr. So you don't say ya'kulu u'kul. You don't say u'kul. Instead you say kul. And you don't say ya'khudhu u'khudh. You say khudh. So that's 2. And then there's amara and sa'ala. Likewise, in the amr, the hamzas get omitted. So you say mur. And this one, the hamza gets omitted. The alif, the fatha gets transferred to it becomes sal anyway. Sal. Mur sal. So the hamzas in both of these get omitted in the amr. Likewise, these 2 get omitted in the amr. And then we have the 5th one, ra'a. Ra'a is the madi, not alif. So ra'a is also mahmuz. It falls into 2 categories, right? Because it has a hamza, it's going to fall here. And because one of the root letters has a alif, it's going to fall here. طيب, ala kulli hal, this is also from the mahmuz. What happens to the hamza? It gets omitted in the mudari and the amr. So you don't say ra'a fa'ala yaf'alu. It's supposed to be ra'a yar'ayu. Yar'ayu. Yaf'alu. But it becomes ra'a yara. Yara. Muhammad yara. He sees. And likewise, in the amr it gets omitted. So it becomes ra. So the hamza for ra'a gets omitted in the mudari and the amr. and the other 4, it gets omitted in the amr only. These are the only 5 irregularities, irregular verbs within the Mahmuz. Otherwise, everything else remains standard. طيب, so the focus is not on this side. The focus is not on this side, but it's important to know these categories. So that's the first side. Now we're going to speak about the second side. Second side is the mu'tal. What's mu'tal? One of the root letters is a harf illa. طيب. This is also subdivided into 4. So this is also subdivided into 4. So let's make space. This is subdivided into 4 depending on where the harf illa is found. Is it found on the fa'ul kalima? Is it found on the aynul kalima? Is it found on the lamul kalima? If the harf illa is found in the fa'ul kalima, the fa'ul kalima is harf illa, it's going to be called al-mithal. What's al-mithal? Al-mithal is the mu'tal, but it's a specific type of mu'tal because the fa'ul kalima, let me write fa'ul kalima harf illa. The fa'ul kalima harf illa. You should understand, inshallah. The fa'ul kalima is a harf illa. It's called mithal. Like wajada. Wajada is mithal. Why? Because the fa'ul kalima is harf illa. Another one, yabisa. Yabisa means to become dry. Is mithal. Why? Because the fa'ul kalima is a harf illa. And we only have waw and ya. Those are the only 2 possibilities. Alif does not come here. Because alif is sakin, how can you start with a sukun? طيب, so we only have 2 types. We have mithal wawi, mithal ya'i. 2 types. So what's mithal? Mithal is where the fa'ul kalima is a harf illa. And we have 2 types, wawi or ya'i. And this is actually, mithal is going to be the main focus of lesson 26. This is what we're going to cover in lesson 26. Then the second one is where the aynul kalima. So this is fa'ul kalima. Now aynul kalima is harf illa. This one is going to be called al-ajwaf. Ajwaf, aynul kalima is harf illa. Can you think of some examples for ajwaf? طيب. From what we've taken zara, we've taken qala. From what we've taken, what else did we take? Mata, Muhammad, mata, right? It came in one of the verbs. Other examples that we have not taken, we have awira. And we also have hayyida. Awira means to become blind in one eye. Hayyida means to deviate. Awira, hayyida. These are all ajwaf. Why? Because the aynul kalima, which is the middle letter, is a harf illa. And it doesn't have to be confined to thulathi. It can be ruba'i, khumasi, sudasi. It can be ruba'i, khumasi, sudasi. So long as the aynul kalima in those forms is a harf illa, then it's considered ajwaf. So long as the harf illa is the fa'ul kalima is a harf illa, it's considered mithal. Whether it's ruba'i, thulathi, and the same for all of the ones that we're going to be mentioning. So that's if the middle letter is a harf illa. This one is going to be studied in lesson 27. Lesson 27, we focus on ajwaf. طيب. Then the third category is the lamul kalima is a harf illa. If the lamul kalima is a harf illa, it's going to be called an-naqis. An-naqisu. Naqisu lamul kalima. Lamul kalima is the harf illa. I hope you understand my paraphrasing here. So lamul kalima, aynul kalima, fa'ul kalima is where the harf illa is found. طيب, examples of naqis. We have da'a. The alamul kalima is a harf illa alif. We mentioned masha, to walk. Da'a, to invoke, yani supplicate. We have laqiya, laqiya, to meet. Laqiya, to meet. We have rahuwa, a word, verb that we've taken. Rahuwa means to become relaxed. طيب, all of them, the lamul kalima is a harf illa, whether it's alif, a ya, or waw. طيب, these are the lessons that are going to be coming, inshallah. In 26, which is our lesson, is the lesson that we're in right now, we will learn mithal, where the fa'ul kalima is a harf illa. Some of the changes related to that are going to be covered in lesson 26. The rules related to ajwaf, 27. The rules related to naqis, 28. The rules related to muda'af is going to come in 29. These are the 4 lessons that are coming where the author concentrates on sarf. And then we said how many in total? 4. So we have لام الكلمة the فاء الكلمة is a حرف إلا, is called مثال. عين الكلمة is a حرف إلا, is called أجوف. لام الكلمة is a حرف إلا, is called ناقص. Sometimes we have more than one حرف إلا. If we have more than one حرف إلا, يعني one of the root letters, either the fa and the ain or the fa and the lam are coming as حرف إلا, there's 2 حروف الإلا in the roots, is called اللفيف. طيب, what's اللفيف? It means there's 2 حروف إلا. These ones are just 1. And Lafif is 2 types. Lafif is 2 types. Lafif mafruq and Lafif maqroon. If the 2 huruf al-illa are maqroon, they come one after the other, they follow on from one another, it's called maqroon. Qarana means to link, connect between something. So that's where the name maqroon comes from. Maqroon means the 2 huruf illa follow on from one another without any partition between the 2. So that happens with the ain wal lam. Al-ain wal lam. Al-ain wal lam. I hope you can see properly, inshallah. It's not very neat. Al-ain wal lam, they consist of huruf illa. Example of that, nawa. Nawa means to make intention. So here we have ain, lam, both huruf illa. Another example, qawiya. Qawiya, to be strong. Ain, lam, harf illa. So this is lafif, maqroon. Another example, hayyiya. Hayyiya. Hayyiya means to be shy or to live. طيب. And it doesn't have to be thulathi, right? These are just examples. It can be thulathi, rubai, khumas. So long as the ain and the lam are huruf illa, it's going to be called lafif maqroon. Lafif maqroon. And what's lafif mafruq? Farq. Remember farq, we learned the mar al-farq bayna. Farq means difference. So there's a difference between the 2 huruf illa, and it's disconnected. The opposite of this is disconnected. So there's going to be harf illa, and then a harf illa here, and then a harf sahih in between, yani separating the 2. And this is going to consist in the al-fa wal lam. The fa and the lam are going to be huruf illa. So the ayn al-kalima is going to be a harf sahih. Example of that, waqa. Fa, lam. Waqa means to protect. Wa'a. Wa'a means to comprehend. And other examples like yadiya. Yadiya, I believe it means to extend help or something like that. Allahu a'lam. So these are the examples. Fa and lam. Fa and lam. Fa and lam. Lafif mafruq, because there's a harf illa or harf sahih in between, separating the 2. Maqroon, they are one after the other. This is not going to be studied. Why? Because the rules related to the first harf illa, they apply in this lesson. When we study mithal, they cover this part. And when we study naqis, the last letter being a harf illa is going to cover this part. And with this one, the last part is studied in naqis, and the middle part is going to be studied in ajwaf. So these, they cover the rules associated to these. These ones are just mentioned to complete the category, the categorization. So you have the full categories mentioned, the groups. طيب. If we understand this, that's going to be a big ni'mah, a great blessing. So alhamdulillah, at least we have an overview. So once again, we've categorized the verb in terms of its root letters consisting of a harf illa or not into 2. We have sahih, the root letters are free from huruf illa. Mu'tal, the root letters consist of harf illa. One or more of the root letters consist of harf illa. Then the sahih is subdivided into 3. We have salim, mahmuz, muda'af. Salim, it's free from huruf al-illa, and on top of that, it's free from hamza and free from repetition in the root letters. Mahmuz is free from huruf al-illa, and it has a hamza in the root letters. Other than ra'a, I haven't seen any other verb which has a harf illa that's mentioned in mahmuz other than ra'a. Then we have muda'af. Muda'af is where there is repetition in the root letters. And this repetition can be two types. Thulathi, where it's ayn and lam, or ruba'i, fa and first lam, ayn and second lam. طيب. So that's the first side. The second side is where the verb is referred to as mu'tal. One of the root letters is a harf illa. And this is subdivided into four. We have mithal, the fa'ul kalim is a harf illa. We have ajwaf, the aynul kalim is a harf illa. We have naqis, the lamul kalim is a harf illa. Then we have lafif, where there's two huruf illa in the roots. If they come together, it's called maqroon, and that's going to be in the ayn and the lam. If it's separated, disconnected, it's going to be mafruq, and it comes in the fa and the lam. طيب. The point of mentioning this categorization is for benefit's sake, and more importantly, to have an overview of what's to come. So in lesson 26, which is the lesson that we're going to be studying, we study mithal. We focus on mithal. In lesson 27, we study ajwaf. In lesson 28, we study naqis. And lesson 29, we study the mudha'af. طيب, before we end, I'm going to give you some verbs, and I want you to tell me which category they come in. طيب, the verbs are as follows. قاتل, استلم, روي, نشأ, تدافع, استدعى, تدحرج, and تزلزل. That says قابلت. So I've added the ضمير there. استغفر. طيب, so there's 10 verbs here in total. I want you to mention which category each one of these verbs fall into. بارك الله فيكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.